Qingtan, what are you doing here? At this moment, Lin Dong's voice was filled with shock and fury. Underneath it, there was a hint of uncontainable dread, an anxiety that came with losing control of a situation. This state of mind, this emotion, was something EngSubs and EngHuan had never seen in him before. Instinctively, they turned their gazes to the beautiful girl floating midair. The girl was about the same age as EngHuan, dressed in a dark black dress, her slender figure and exquisite features captivating to the eye. Her bright eyes sparkled with liveliness, as if they were little elves that could speak. This girl was none other than Qingtan, who had left the great Yin dynasty in a different manner after Lin Dong had departed. Behind her stood a man, hovering in the air, whose presence was imposing. His face was half covered by a ghostly mask, adding a sinister aura to his already formidable presence. EngSubs and the others were not strangers to this unique figure. He was Ghost-masked Chen Kuei, ranked number 1 on the Eastern Mystery Region's Sect Wanted list, a name that struck fear into the hearts of many. At this moment, the two in midair had become the center of attention, though most of the cautious stares were directed at Ghost-masked Chen Kuei. His infamous reputation from the Sect Wanted list was a force to be reckoned with. In the sky, the joyful smile on Qingtan's face vanished the moment she saw Lin Dong's expression, and she hurriedly descended, standing obediently in front of him. She didn't dare meet his gaze, lowering her head like a guilty child caught running away from home. You. Lin Dong stood there, stunned, staring at the girl before him. Her face was so familiar, etched deep within his soul, that it stirred a powerful surge of emotions from the depths of his heart. For a moment, all he could do was point at her, unable to form a coherent sentence. Chen Kuei, who had descended behind Qingtan, was equally surprised. The little junior sister, whom even the strictest of masters couldn't control, had suddenly become so well-behaved. He glanced at Lin Dong, whose face alternated between anger and astonishment. Chen Kuei wanted to say something but found the words stuck in his throat, so he remained silently standing behind Qingtan. What did you do? Why are you here? Did you run away from home? Though Lin Dong had exceptional mental fortitude, it still took him a moment to regain his composure. His furious questions then came like a barrage of cannonballs. No, father and mother know I'm here. Qingtan fidgeted with her fingers as she replied softly. Why aren't you staying safely in the great Yin dynasty? What's a girl like you doing out here? Lin Dong's anger flared once more. He couldn't imagine how a young girl, oblivious to the dangers of the world, had dared to venture into the Eastern Mystery Region, a place riddled with perils. Didn't she realize the consequences of something going wrong? The mere thought of the worst-case scenario made even Lin Dong, with all his resilience, feel suffocated. He knew if that happened, it would drive him and their parents to madness. You're allowed to go out and explore, so why can't I? Qingtan lifted her face, looking aggrieved. But when she saw Lin Dong's eyebrows furrow in anger again, she quickly shrank back, the fleeting rebellion vanishing. I just wanted to protect father and mother too. I can become strong, you know? You're always working so hard and exhausting yourself. I want to help you. I don't want to be like before, standing helplessly on the sidelines. Her words caused Lin Dong to pause for a moment. He looked at the girl's pitiful expression and couldn't help but feel a little irritated as he muttered, "Why are you worrying about things like that?" Despite the irritation in his tone, the anger in his eyes had visibly softened. It seemed her words had touched him, and perhaps there was even a small sense of pride in seeing how much she had grown. Qingtan pursed her lips, but her clever instincts told her not to provoke the already volatile Lin Dong. Do father and mother really know you're out here? Lin Dong rubbed his aching forehead. Qingtan nodded earnestly. They gave you permission? Lin Dong pressed further. At this, Qingtan hesitated for a moment. She was about to nod when she caught sight of Lin Dong's suddenly stern gaze. Her shoulders slumped in defeat as she admitted, "Mother didn't agree. We even argued about it." As soon as the words left her mouth, she quickly shut her lips, sneaking a glance at Lin Dong. Sure enough, his expression had darkened once again. So, you've got some nerve now, huh? Even daring to argue with mother? Lin Dong sneered. With her head hanging low, Qingtan mumbled, "If you want to scold me, then go ahead, but—" Her voice choked up, and her eyes reddened with unshed tears. She lifted her gaze to Lin Dong's face, now more mature and resolute than it had been 2 years ago. In a voice filled with emotion, she whispered, "I missed you." The various emotions on Lin Dong's face froze at those words. She had followed his footsteps, leaving the place where she could have remained carefree and mischievous, to wander the world alone. She had endured countless hardships, all for the sake of lessening his burden, so he wouldn't have to struggle so desperately anymore. Lin Dong's throat tightened as he slowly reached out to pat her head, his voice hoarse. "You've really grown up?" With a wry smile, he added, "Sigh, all right, I'll let you off this time." No sooner had the words left his mouth than Qingtan's eyes lit up with joy. She smiled radiantly, just like she had years ago, and slipped her arms around his. However, as she clung to his arm, a sly smile crept across her lips. Just as that smile formed, she noticed a sharp gaze directed her way. Looking up, she saw Huan seated behind her, her hands resting on a jade-green guzheng. At that moment, Huan's bright eyes were fixed on Qingtan, having caught her sly grin. Qingtan stuck out her tongue playfully and winked at Huan, her large eyes silently conveying a message. "You know what I mean, don't expose me." Huan couldn't help but suppress a laugh. It seemed this girl, Qingtan, knew exactly how to handle Lin Dong's temper. But she could also tell that the emotions Qingtan had shown earlier were indeed genuine. With no intention of exposing Qingtan's little trick, Huan winked back. The two girls, despite their similar age, seemed to form an unspoken alliance, having successfully pulled the wool over Lin Dong's ever-cautious eyes. "Brother Lin Dong, this is my senior brother, Chen Kuei. I owe it to him for escorting me here safely," Qingtan said with a smile, turning around and introducing Chen Kuei to Lin Dong. "I am Lin Dong. Thank you, Brother Chen, for your help. I'm deeply grateful for your care towards my sister." Lin Dong cupped his hands in a gesture of sincere thanks. "Oh, no need for that, Brother Lin. You're too polite. I was merely carrying out my master's orders," Chen Kuei replied, hurriedly returning the gesture. His humble demeanor left Xiao, Wang Yin, and the others somewhat astonished. After all, Chen Kuei was known for being cold and aloof, not someone who was usually so approachable. "Master? You've joined a sect? What sect is it?" Lin Dong asked, visibly surprised. He looked at Qingtan, seemingly concerned that she might have joined an unfamiliar or dubious sect. "Hee, our sect isn't located in the Eastern Mystery Region. It's in the Northern Mystery Region, and it's called the Dark Hall. I wonder if Brother Lin has heard of it?" Chen Kuei quickly explained. "Dark Hall?" A flash of astonishment flickered in Lin Dong's eyes, and a ripple of surprise stirred in his heart. He was clearly not unfamiliar with that name. The Dark Hall was the dominant force in the Northern Mystery Region, and its reputation was on par with that of massive powers like the Yuan sect. "How did you end up in the Northern Mystery Region?" Lin Dong was clearly taken aback by the fact that Qingtan had joined the Dark Hall. "Back when we were in the Great Yin Dynasty, there was a senior from the Dark Hall secretly following me. He wanted me to join their sect," Qingtan explained. "Oh." Lin Dong raised an eyebrow, surprised that Qingtan had caught the attention of a senior from the Dark Hall back then, without either him or little Martin noticing. Still, knowing that Qingtan had joined the Dark Hall allowed Lin Dong to breathe a sigh of relief. The Dark Hall was a powerful force, and Qingtan being part of it likely meant she was relatively safe. "These are my fellow disciples from the Dao sect," Lin Dong introduced as he gestured to Xiao and the others with a shrug and a smile. "And this is my younger sister, Qingtan." After the introductions, Lin Dong clapped his hands lightly and redirected his gaze toward the distant Yuan sect disciples. A cold smile returned to his face. "Qingtan, step back a bit. I have some trouble to deal with first." All eyes were fixed on the Dao sect side, the earlier events causing a subtle shift in the situation. Though most people were unsure why Chen Kuei had intervened to help the Dao sect, it was clear that the Dao sect now had a powerful ally on their side. Even the little Yuan king, Yuan Song, would likely have some reservations about facing the #1 on the sect's wanted list. So even Chen Kuei has shown up? Ling Qingzhu murmured softly, her clear eyes showing a slight ripple as she gazed into the distance. Who is that girl called Qingtan? Wu Kun asked in surprise. The black-clad girl clearly had a close relationship with Lin Dong, and it seemed Chen Kuei had helped the Dao sect because of her. She seems to be Lin Dong's younger sister. I've heard them mention her before, Su Ro replied, her eyes tinged with envy as she watched the close bond between Qingtan and Lin Dong. I see. Wu Kun nodded slightly before looking toward the Yuan sect. Even with Chen Kuei's help, the Dao sect is still somewhat weaker compared to the Yuan sect. This situation is becoming more complicated. Under the gaze of the crowd, Lin Dong slowly stepped forward, his gaze locking onto the Yuan sect, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. This area is not the exclusive territory of your Yuan sect. Whether my Dao sect disciples stay here is not for your Yuan sect to decide. The little Yuan king, Yuan Tsong, narrowed his eyes, his sharp gaze slicing through the air like a blade. His fingers brushed over the iron sword in his hand as he spoke calmly. Do you think having a helper gives you the courage to challenge my Yuan sect? Helper or not, if your Yuan sect wants to fight, I'm ready to oblige, Lin Dong responded nonchalantly. Such arrogance. You think you can boast in front of us? Just because you used a little trick to win last time, you think you can wag your tail in the air? Lei Qian sneered, his eyes dark and cold. Why don't we find out if it was just a trick? Lin Dong said with a smile, laced with provocation. Lei Qian's eyes narrowed, and murderous intent surged within him. However, he was far more cautious this time, and his gaze shifted to Yuan Tsong. Yuan Tsong's eyes were half closed, his gaze fixed on Lin Dong. He chuckled and said, since someone is eager to court humiliation, Lei Qian, oblige him? Upon hearing this, a ferocious smile spread across Lei Qian's face. His fists clenched tightly as he stepped forward and shouted, Lin Dong, since your Dao sect refuses to leave, I'll give you a chance. Face me in a one-on-one fight. If you defeat me, my Yuan sect will stop pestering you. But if you lose, you'll take your Dao sect disciples and leave. Do you dare accept? Lei Qian's voice, empowered by his primordial energy, echoed across the sky and reverberated in every ear within the basin. Clearly, Lei Qian had learned his lesson from the last encounter and didn't want to impose any restrictions. He had openly stated it would be a one-on-one battle, relying on personal strength. This was his way of ensuring that Lin Dong wouldn't use the demon corpse as an advantage. The demon corpse is still controlled by Lin Dong. Why wouldn't it count as his strength? You've got some nerve twisting the rules like this, EngSubs scoffed. Enough talk. If you don't want to agree, then we'll settle this with force and see who comes out on top. Lei Qian sneered. You. EngSubs and the others were furious at Lei Qian's blatant scheming, but before they could speak, Lin Dong waved his hand and calmly stepped forward. Swoosh. As soon as he moved, every gaze in the area locked onto him, realizing that Lin Dong actually intended to accept Lei Qian's challenge. Lin Dong, EngSubs, Wang Yin, and the others looked worried. Although Lin Dong had forced Lei Qian to retreat last time, it had been due to a clever tactic. This time, Lei Qian would be going all out, and without the advantage of the demon corpse, how could Lin Dong hope to contend with him? I'll fight with you. Just as Lin Dong took another step, a voice suddenly rang out from behind him. Everyone was stunned to see Qingtan stepping forward, wielding an enormous black scythe. The weapon was larger than her entire body, its blade adorned with strange runes that flickered ominously. A chilling, sharp aura emanated from the scythe. The sight of the slender girl in a black dress, wielding the oversized scythe, was both comical and endearing. EngSubs and the others stared in shock at Qingtan, their eyes lingering on the massive black scythe in her hands. They could faintly sense the overwhelming energy emanating from it. Clearly, this scythe might very well be a pure elemental treasure. Lin Dong was also taken aback by Qingtan's sudden interjection. His brows furrowed as he spoke in a deep voice, "Step aside." Even though he could sense that Qingtan was no longer the frail girl she had once been, tormented by cold energy, he still didn't want her fighting when he was around. Okay. Qingtan, who had been brimming with confidence just moments earlier, immediately deflated at Lin Dong's words, retreating with a pout. Lin Dong, are you sure about this? EngSubs asked hesitantly. The Dao sect had no intention of engaging the Yuan sect in a full-scale battle here, but if it meant putting Lin Dong at risk, then they might as well go all out. Lin Dong shook his head slightly and walked forward, his gaze growing colder as it locked onto Lei Qian, who stood in the distance with a cruel smile. Lin Dong's voice was calm as he spoke. I accept your challenge. As Lin Dong's words echoed across the basin, a low murmur of surprise rippled through the crowd. No one had expected him to accept Lei Qian's challenge without using the advantage of his demon corpse. That's not a wise decision. Wu Kun from the Nine Heavens Taiching Palace watched the scene unfold, a look of surprise crossing his face as he muttered to himself. This time, Lei Qian won't give him any chances. He's only setting himself up for humiliation. He's not a fool. If he didn't have a plan, he wouldn't take this lightly, Ling Qingzhu said softly, her clear eyes fixed on Lin Dong's slender figure as he emerged from the Dao sect disciples. Oh. Wu Kun seemed unconvinced. If Lin Dong had the demon corpse, he might have a chance against Lei Qian, but without it, Wu Kun couldn't see how Lin Dong stood any chance of victory. Haha, you've got guts. Seeing Lin Dong accept the challenge, the savage grin on Lei Qian's face grew wider. His eyes gleamed with a twisted delight. The defeat he had suffered at the alien demon city had left him seething with rage, and now he had the chance to exact revenge personally. While he had been caught off guard by Lin Dong's odd tactics last time, Lei Qian was confident that in a direct fight, Lin Dong wouldn't stand a chance against him. This was the confidence of one of the 3 minor kings of the Yuan sect. This time, he would crush Lin Dong completely in front of everyone. In the middle of the vast crimson basin, under countless gazes, 2 figures slowly stepped forward. Almost simultaneously, waves of powerful primordial energy erupted from both sides, causing the atmosphere to instantly tense. Creak. Lei Qian clenched his fists, producing a grinding sound. Brilliant silver primordial energy surged from his body like streaks of lightning, enveloping him in a violent and ferocious aura. Boy, this time, I'll show you the real difference between us. Lei Qian sneered, his face twisted with a menacing smile as his gaze bore into Lin Dong. Lin Dong's expression remained calm. Azure light surged across his body as his arms and legs began to transform, morphing into dragon-like limbs. A pair of azure dragon wings extended from his back, signaling the activation of his dragon transformation state. Azure dragon scales surfaced across Lin Dong's body, glinting coldly under the sunlight, reflecting a sharp, icy gleam. Clenching his dragon claws, Lin Dong felt the vast, beast-like power coursing through his body, and his eyes grew even colder. That body-refining martial art looks impressive, but let's see how many punches it can withstand, Lei Qian sneered. In the next instant, the savage grin on his face deepened, and he stepped forward. Boom. As Lei Qian's foot touched the ground, it was as if thunder rumbled through the air. In a flash, his body flickered, and a streak of lightning tore through the sky. The streak of lightning rapidly expanded in Lin Dong's pupils. Lei Qian's speed had reached an astonishing level. Swoosh. Lin Dong's azure dragon wings flapped sharply, leaving behind an afterimage as his real body swiftly retreated. Bang! As soon as Lin Dong moved, the streak of lightning pierced through the afterimage, shattering it with a violent punch. Himph, you're fast, but can you outrun me? Lei Qian sneered as his first attack missed. His fingers suddenly came together, pointing toward Lin Dong's retreating form. Thunderlight sky-splitting finger. A streak of silver primordial energy shot out from Lei Qian's fingertips like a bolt of lightning, tearing through the air and speeding toward Lin Dong, aiming directly at his throat. It was clear that Lei Qian had no intention of holding back. Wild demon eye. A strange gray eye swiftly appeared on Lin Dong's forehead. In the next moment, a destructive gray beam shot out, colliding with the silver energy beam. Boom. A low explosion rang out as the 2 beams clashed, resulting in both forces dissipating into nothingness. How many more of my attacks can you block? Lei Qian sneered coldly. He wasn't angered by the failed attack. Instead, he grinned darkly. His strength far surpassed Lin Dong's, and he was confident that he could outlast him in a battle of attrition. With a sinister smile, Lei Qian gathered the lightning energy around him, forming numerous thunderous hands that pointed toward Lin Dong. Thunderstorm violent finger. Swish, swish, swish. Countless beams of violent energy, filled with terrifying destructive power, shot down from the sky, their overwhelming force leaving Lin Dong with no path to retreat. This assault was ferocious, earning Lei Qian his reputation as the Little Thunder King. Just this one move was enough to make even a 9th Nirvana stage expert wary. Lin Dong looked up, his expression serious as he gazed at the storm of thunderous beams descending from above. He could feel the immense danger radiating from them. Who? Lin Dong exhaled slowly, his eyes suddenly flaring with an intense azure light. Roar! A massive wave of azure light erupted from Lin Dong's body, swirling around him. Moments later, a deep dragon's roar echoed across the battlefield. A massive azure dragon, dozens of meters long, materialized in the sky at that moment. A powerful pressure spread out from above, as if a true dragon had descended upon the battlefield. Sky-transforming dragon art. Azure Dragon descends. As Lin Dong's mastery of the sky-transforming dragon art deepened, his comprehension of the martial art had reached new heights. Now, he could harness the heavenly dragon energy within his body to summon an azure dragon. This dragon, far more majestic than previous versions, exuded an overwhelming aura, its power ferocious and unpredictable. The azure dragon slithered through the sky above Lin Dong, its massive tail suddenly sweeping through the air. The space around it seemed to distort as the tail lashed out, and the torrent of incoming thunderous rain exploded like a display of fireworks. Boom! The dragon's tail continued its sweeping motion, shattering the rain of lightning, and without losing momentum, it surged toward Lei Qian with devastating force. Humph! Lei Qian's expression changed slightly at the sight, but he did not retreat. With a cold snort, brilliant lightning erupted from his body, his hair standing on end from the sheer force of the energy. Clenching his fists tightly, he unleashed his attack with full force. Thunder Dragon Roaring Fist. A furious roar of a dragon echoed from within Lei Qian's body as immense lightning energy converged, forming a massive thunder dragon. Boom! The thunder dragon roared across the sky, carrying a violent surge of power as it collided head-on with the azure dragon under countless watchful eyes. In that instant, it was like two meteors colliding, an earth-shattering clash that sent shockwaves rippling through the atmosphere. A terrifying primordial energy storm burst out from the point of impact in the sky, causing the expressions of many onlookers to change dramatically. Bang! Bang! As the storm raged, two figures were sent flying from the sky, each tumbling back several hundred meters before finally managing to stabilize themselves in midair. Countless eyes focused on them, and a low murmur spread through the crowd when they saw the disheveled state of both fighters. Most were stunned by the fact that Lin Dong had managed to hold his own against Lei Qian. After all, regardless of the ferocity of his martial arts, Lei Qian had already placed one foot into the life mystique stage, a realm that should have given him a significant edge over Lin Dong. The kid's got some skill. Wu Kun from the Nine Heavens Taiching Palace rubbed his nose in surprise, speaking with a hint of regret. He had initially assumed Lin Dong's provocation was just a foolish act, but it turned out that Lin Dong's real combat power far exceeded what was apparent. Big brother Lin Dong is still as amazing as ever, Su Ro said excitedly, her eyes filled with admiration, but it's still too early to celebrate. Ling Qingzhu, however, shook her head slightly, her clear eyes focused on Lei Qian in the distance. A trace of concern flickered in her gaze. Boom, boom. Without anyone noticing, dark clouds began to gather in the sky. Soon after, the crowd realized that the primordial energy in the air had become increasingly violent. Bolts of lightning suddenly streaked down from the dark clouds, and in an instant, the entire sky seemed to transform into a world of thunder and lightning. Suspended in midair amidst the torrential lightning was Lei Qian, his face twisted with an eerie and vicious expression. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he slowly extended both of his palms, and the lightning behind him converged. In that moment, he looked as if he had transformed into a god of thunder. Next, I'll show you one of the Yuan sect's ultimate martial arts. Consider yourself fortunate to die by it. Lei Qian's voice rolled out like thunder, filled with murderous intent. His hands suddenly formed a complex and mysterious seal. That's... EngSubs and the others narrowed their eyes as they stared at the seal in Lei Qian's hands, their faces growing increasingly serious. Someone muttered in a solemn voice, "Is that the Thunder Emperor Codex, one of the Yuan sect's 3 ultimate martial arts?" Thunderbolts rained down from the dark clouds above, their deafening roars reverberating throughout the entire basin. Even the ground beneath them seemed to tremble slightly from the power. Lei Qian stood amidst the downpour of lightning, silver light flickering around his body. From a distance, he looked like a divine being of thunder. The Thunder Emperor Codex. Murmurs of awe spread through the crowd as many recognized this infamous and powerful martial art. He's actually been pushed to the point of using the Thunder Emperor Codex. It seems that kid really has some ability. The little spirit king, Ling Zhan, remarked with a surprised smile as he watched the scene unfold in the sky. It seems Lindong has cultivated both primordial energy and spiritual energy. Otherwise, with his 7th Nirvana stage strength, there's no way he could have lasted this long against Lei Qian, Yuan Song said calmly. But this is as far as he goes. Ling Zhan nodded with a smile. While Lindong's ability to hold his own was impressive, now that Lei Qian had unleashed the Thunder Emperor Codex, there was no way Lindong could continue to hold the battle in a stalemate. The outcome of the fight would likely be decided in their next exchange. Once that kid is crippled, the Dao sect will likely behave more obediently. Our priority now is the ancient vault of heaven burning. We can settle things with him after we're done here, Ling Zhan added with a charming smile, though a glint of cruelty flashed in his eyes. Yuan Song smiled faintly and said nothing. With his hands behind his back, his gaze remained fixed on the slender figure amidst the sea of thunder, a faintly mocking smile playing at his lips. Boom! As Lei Qian's hands shifted through the complex seal, the dark clouds above began to churn violently. Soon, they coalesced into a massive funnel, with lightning coiling around the tip. The dazzling light was so intense that it was almost blinding. Under the barrage of lightning, Lei Qian's malicious grin grew wider. In the next moment, his hand clenched into a fist, and the funnel-shaped cloud released a torrent of thunderous energy, pouring down like a deluge of molten lightning. Boom! The torrent of lightning condensed into a massive thunder spear, about 100 meters long, suspended in the air above Lei Qian. The spear crackled with lightning arcs as destructive energy radiated from it, distorting the surrounding space. What terrifying power! EngSubs and the others watched the gigantic spear with grim expressions. Their eyes were filled with tension. Even Huan, who had been seated with her hands resting on her guzheng, unconsciously tightened her grip. She bit her lip, and for a moment, a faint ice-blue light flickered in the depths of her eyes, though even she did not notice it. Lei Qian's strength has grown significantly since the last time. Chen Kuei, who had been watching the sky, hesitated for a moment before turning to Qingtan. "Should I intervene?" he asked. Chen Kuei observed Lindong's strength, noting that he appeared to be at the 7th Nirvana stage, with notable spiritual energy fluctuations. It was clear that Lindong had impressive achievements in both fields, but compared to Lei Qian, there was still a significant gap. Lei Qian had already resorted to using his ultimate move, and Lindong's situation seemed precarious. No need. However, despite Chen Kuei's concern, Qingtan shook her head with a bright smile. She lifted her head, the sky full of lightning reflecting on her extraordinarily beautiful face, where a faint trace of fervor seemed to surface. "Brother Lindong won't lose," she said with confidence, holding the massive black scythe in her hands. Her appearance was both eerie and enchanting. Chen Kuei was slightly stunned by her response, but then he nodded silently. It was the first time he had ever seen Qingtan with such an expression, one that she had never shown even in front of their most revered master. The Thunder Emperor Codex, huh? Amidst the violent thunderstorm, Lin Dong's figure looked like a small boat in a vast ocean, seemingly on the verge of being swallowed by the waves at any moment. His eyes, however, were focused intently on Lei Qian, who stood in the distance with a vicious grin, his hand raised high. From the massive thunder spear, Lin Dong could sense a terrifyingly dangerous power. "If you want to fight, I'll give you one," Lin Dong muttered to himself. Then, under countless gazes, he slowly extended both hands. A complex and mysterious light array began to take shape in his palms. As the light array formed, Lin Dong's eyes sharpened, and immense primordial and spiritual energy surged into it like a tidal wave. Swish! With the infusion of energy, the originally palm-sized light array began to expand at an astonishing rate. Within a few breaths, it had grown to several dozen meters in diameter. From a distance, the array hovered in front of Lin Dong, rotating slowly, emitting an indescribable ripple of energy. What is that? Many eyes were glued to Lin Dong's actions, and when they saw the enormous rotating light array, expressions of shock appeared on their faces. Mere trickery, like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Lei Qian was briefly taken aback but quickly sneered, his grin growing even more savage. To him, it looked as though Lin Dong planned to take his ultimate attack head-on, something that Lei Qian believed was tantamount to suicide. "If you're so eager to die, I'll gladly oblige." Above Lei Qian's head, the colossal thunder spear had fully formed, radiating dazzling light as waves of terrifying energy continuously swept out from it. Lei Qian stretched out his hand, gripping the spear firmly. Then, everyone saw the spearhead tilt slightly before locking onto Lin Dong in the distance. Thunder Emperor Codex, world-destroying spear. Lei Qian's low growl echoed across the sky as the muscles in his arm bulged like coiled dragons. In the next instant, his arm whipped forward, and his body leaned into the motion, launching the massive spear with ferocious might. Boom! The entire sky seemed to tremble violently at that moment. The giant thunder spear transformed into a 100-meter-long bolt of lightning, tearing through the sky like a ferocious, clawing thunder dragon, its momentum terrifying beyond belief. Whoosh! The overwhelming pressure instantly enveloped Lin Dong, locking down a 100-meter radius around him. In response, he took a deep breath, his eyes sharpening. In a flash, his hand slapped against the gigantic light array before him. Ancient cosmic formation. Reverse. A low voice emerged from Lin Dong's lips. The next moment, the massive light array began to spin in reverse at an incredible speed, causing strange lights to gather within it. Disintegrate. With cold eyes, Lin Dong pointed 2 fingers at the light array. The array trembled violently, and a strange beam of light, dozens of meters wide, suddenly shot out from within it. Zzz. Zzz. The beam didn't produce any particularly loud noise, but only the most observant individuals could detect its eerie nature. Wherever the beam passed, it seemed to erase the primordial energy in the air. It wasn't just dispelling it. It was as if that energy ceased to exist, wiped away completely, as if it had been annihilated. Yuan Tsang, the little Yuan king, who had remained calm until now, saw this and his usually indifferent expression twisted into one of shock. Boom. At the same time Yuan Tsang's expression shifted, the 2 overwhelming forces, which had captured everyone's attention, collided in the sky with a thunderous roar. Countless eyes turned to witness the outcome of this fierce exchange. The battle would be decided in this clash.